Hola amigos de Latin Kiwi.
Oh my gosh. Brave. Hola amigos, welcome back to Latin Kiwi. Here we are with my friend. How should I say your name? Like C or
Z, like the letter Z.
Z? C is from Singapore, but he's been living in New Zealand for ages. Like you've been very like from a baby, you know?
Yeah, so I was born in Singapore, but I came here when I was 4 months.
Oh,
and been here
chiquitito.
been here for my whole life, in Auckland my whole life.
So you are like a Singapore Kiwi.
Yeah,
Like you born in Singapore, but you
Yes.
were raised in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So explain me something, because I'm born in Mexico and then I came to New Zealand, of course, older, an adult, and I of course know I am a Mexican living in New Zealand. But in your case, it's just a Kiwi. Like well, I don't know how to express myself in that term because you've been here since 4 months, so you've been raised in this country. So how you don't feel Kiwi? Is because a race thing or why?
I think I've always struggled with when I'm overseas, I tend to say that I'm Kiwi.
Yeah.
But when I'm here, I tend to say I'm Singaporean or I'm New Zealander.
Okay.
I think they didn't think I was Kiwi because of my accent. And
Oh.
accents are very different
Okay.
and stuff. So when they say, your accent isn't very Kiwi, they mean it's not very white Kiwi.
This is another thing I wanted to talk, and that's why I wanted to get into this point. I didn't know this because as a Mexican and I arrived to New Zealand, everybody was telling me, oh, New Zealanders are Kiwis. That's why they say me like, Kiwis are New Zealanders, okay? But then when I started to talk with everybody, I could understand like Kiwis is more a name or nickname that it's more for white people in New Zealand, like or people who is not from countries like me or my country, your country, that we are so different to the white people in New Zealand that they do not relate it. That's why I wanted to point this to understand, because when you are a foreigner, you don't know this until you are here and you face these multicultural people.
Yeah.
And also the name you said in Maori, that is Pakeha.
I mean, the thing is, a lot of people do relate to the term Kiwi. It's just for me personally, the more that I think about it, there is a term that I prefer called Toiwi. Toiwi means an iwi from like another place. So for
How you say it?
Toiwi.
Toiwi.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we are Toiwi.
We're Toiwi. And because the thing as well is, if you
Toiwi.
speak to, for example, if you speak to Maori people will always say that they are Maori before they are Kiwi. They will never say
Of
they are Kiwi.
course.
They always say I'm Maori.
Of course. This is another thing that I learned when I came to New Zealand, and I noticed like the first people who were in the island and the ones who be there for ages were the Maoris, that are the native people from New Zealand. 100%, if you see a Maori, they are Maoris and they are native people from Aotearoa. So this is another thing that I learned when I came to New Zealand and I started to experience by myself the cultures here in this beautiful country. So right now, my friend and I are gonna go around and we're gonna talk about why you are so good talking Maori. So let's go, because it's very hot inside. I think we need a little bit of fresh air, and let's talk about Maori and how you say symbol language.
That's a New Zealand sign language.
Ah. So that's the time where you have to share your story about why you are so passionate about Maori.
Okay. I think like a big thing for me is that I love culture and I love languages, and I think even growing up when I was younger, I was exposed to a lot of different cultures. So obviously being Asian, we had our own culture, but my dad works in Europe, and so growing up we had lots of people come over during the summer from Germany, Holland, Denmark, all over. So I grew up hearing different languages, hearing different accents, and so for me it was always very normal. Also, when I was in primary, my brother and I were the only Asians in the Maori emphasis class.
Wow.
So we learned a bit of Te Reo Maori. So I was exposed to it from a young age. Inside I always had like a pool. I always wanted to learn it. You know, when I heard Maori songs, when I saw the haka, when I read books that had Te Reo Maori, I was like, what does it mean? What does this mean? I want to know. And then it was probably around 2013 when I thought to myself, you know what, I need to do this. I need to do this for myself. So in the second half of 2014, I just did a few night classes because I knew that in 2015 I wanted to study Te Reo Maori full time. So I studied Te Reo Maori full time at Te Takiora, full immersion. So when you go there, the first 2.5 weeks, they let you speak a bit of English, but then after that, it's all Te Reo Maori. Soy muy guapo.
Obvio, of course. And look, he has beautiful tattoos. Tell us about your.
I don't know. These, just designs.
Just because you like it.
Yeah, I like tattoos. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, these
looks like you. These beautiful. Let's see. Yeah, I think we have some inspiration.
These ones will probably have a more meaning. So this is my family here.
See?
And then this one here is my journey and my commitment to Te Reo Maori.
Wow, qué loco. I love it. So, muy bien. Yeah, the same. Nah. It's good today. A lot of people here. Here is the.
Actually, the marae is the whole area, and so normally what people think or call the marae is actually the wharenui, the main meeting house.
Sí.
But the whole area is called the marae, actually.
Wow. Yeah, of course. I have to say, we are just in a hotel, just walking by, and I just told him because this is a beautiful piece, but we are not in a sacred place, okay? Just to put everything in the place. It's not specifically what we represent Maoris, especially not this place. Awesome. My friend, I want to ask you also for sign language. He's a little bit tall, so I have to be like a drone type of. Now we're gonna edit everything, so you're gonna be.
Yeah,
okay.
no worries.
So my question is, he's a great guy, especially because he's my friend, of course, but he also know how to speak language.
I know how to. I know sign language.
Sign language.
Yeah, so I always tell people that I know 4 languages because you don't really speak sign language, you know.
Yeah, you're right. It's a little bit confusing, but you're right. You cannot speak.
So I always say I know 4 languages. I speak 3.
Okay.
But I know 4.
So could you give us a message to the Latin American people saying, "Hi, friends, welcome to Aotearoa," or yeah? So. Oh wow, that's amazing! How'd you learn this?
So I started doing night classes in the second half of 2018. So in the first half of 2018, I took a gap year for my university studies, and I went to study in China for half a year, so in Shanghai, half a year. And then when I came back, I decided to do night classes for sign language because probably ever since maybe 2010, I've kind of always wanted to do sign language.
Wow, I love that also. Oh my gosh. Brave guy. Whoa! Oh my goodness, you guys are crazy. Oh. For example, I saw like some Kiwi people here in New Zealand. Yeah, they do that. Why? What's that? Why do they do that?
They call it popping a manu just to see how high we can splash the water.
Oh my goodness, I've never seen this just here in New Zealand. It's a very nice day, so that's why everybody's enjoying the beautiful day. What about Latin America? Do you have any interest to talk about Spanish maybe one day?
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually did a paper in Spanish when I was at university. But I love languages. Spanish is definitely something that I want, a language that I definitely want to learn. I definitely want to try and visit Mexico one day, but I definitely want to make sure that my Spanish is at a place where I can communicate pretty well.
It's important that mention, if you learn, for example, Maori, I'm pretty sure you will be okay with Spanish because the pronunciation is quite similar. Maori, po,
yeah.
te, ao. It's more easy to catch Spanish, especially because the vowels and the sounds are very similar.
Yeah.
So this is something that I also learned here in New Zealand when I started to try to pronounce a little bit of Maori words. For me, was a little bit easy.
Yeah.
Because
your mouth is already used to moving in a certain way. Like for example, your R,
my
you
R,
already can do
exacto.
the rolled R's. But yeah. Hola amigos.
Eso, muy bien, muy bien.
Hablo un poco de español, un poco, pero muy básico.
Muy bien. So, see, tell me if you can share with us, because we are all from Latin America, so we don't know how people in New Zealand face, for example, teenagers' times, looking around you, different faces like Kiwis, as we just talked about at the beginning, other cultures.
Yeah.
Should be a little bit also quite confused for you, because where I coming from, am I a Kiwi, I'm not, how I should behave, why they are like this, why I'm not like them. So
and like I said, when I was brought up, I was surrounded by lots of different culture. So for me, culture was never, it didn't feel scary. But I think the biggest thing as well is growing up as an Asian in Aotearoa. It always felt like New Zealand was a very Maori or Pākehā, so white New Zealander sort of thing. So you you were left out of conversation, or
even that you speak very well English, because that could happen to us when you don't speak the language. For example, I could feel a little bit left behind because I cannot continue with a very deep conversation, but you are telling me you even that speak very well could feel sometimes a little bit aside.
Yeah, and even just it's even the whole thing of you're not Asian enough to fit in with Asian
Asians.
culture, but then you're obviously not white enough to fit in with white culture. So it's kind of so for me, I know that even when I go back to Singapore, even though people look like me, I still don't always feel 100% like I belong, because culturally I'm a New Zealander. Culturally, I've been born in Singapore, raised in New Zealand, but culturally I am very much New Zealander. So when I go back to Singapore, my accent is different. The way that I dress, my values, the things that I think are very different. Yes, they also have that tinge of my Asian culture, but because I've been brought up in New Zealand, which is very Western dominated, I also had that as well. So it's this weird sort of you're almost you don't know where you belong. But I think for me, definitely, as you get older and you get more secure in your own identity, I think for me as well, definitely learning Te Reo Maori has made me feel more settled in my identity in Aotearoa.
Wow.
Having a lot of Maori friends and stuff like that just embrace me and just support me. Yeah, I think that's those things definitely have helped me personally, and that's how I've felt to be more grounded in my place in Aotearoa.
Wow.
But everybody's different.
Yes.
Everybody's story is different.
Do you think that could be a factor of why so many teenagers get depressed in a country that for me is perfect, and sometimes for me as a foreigner is explode my mind when I see these statistics, when people said in New Zealand there's people who unfortunately commit suicide based on a huge depression. Do you think that could be one of the factors that teenagers have to commit that type of actions?
Yeah, I think definitely like those sorts of, the whole sense of not belonging, the idea of not knowing your identity of who you are, those are all factors that can contribute to depression. Especially for our Maori brothers and sisters, when you're brought up in a country where your ancestors were beaten up for speaking their language, your culture, your names, your literal names were taken away from you. And now that you're older or you've grown up and you're a teenager and it's like you're Maori but you don't speak Maori or you don't know your Maori culture, because we have a lot of urban Maori, that sense of not knowing that part of your identity can be very jarring and can be very hard. And so definitely I understand like that those factors can really feed into, and also being a teenager is hard.
It's very hard. Yes,
it's so hard.
It is hard.
So being a teenager on top of all these identity issues and stuff can feed into mental health issues.
Would you?
I'd say definitely come. Like I love New Zealand. I've traveled to different countries and stuff, and like with any country there's pros and cons. But honestly, like most of the people here are friendly. You can walk down the street and just like smile at someone or say good morning. We have beautiful beaches, beautiful people, and also because especially in Auckland we're so diverse, we have such a beautiful like food culture as well. Like if you want good Indian food, we have it. You want good Japanese food, if you want good Latin American food, we have it.
Of course.
So yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and like with anything, I think people need to travel more and experience different cultures, because when you experience different cultures and different ways that people live, then that kind of opens your own worldview. Because if you only ever know what you know from your country, you'll never really have an open mind for other cultures and other ways of life or how they do things, or even just like things like food. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's such a weird thing to eat, but when you've traveled you just see all the different things that people eat, and so it just becomes normal when people tell you that they eat something that you've never tried before. But like, oh, that's interesting, like I'll try it. Let's try. I'll try crickets.
Yes, you try crickets. Exactly. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are so blessed to have you here, because for me you're a very special person, and I really want everybody to know you, how to be a person who maybe was born and raised in another country but have a crazy and amazing opportunities to be in another place, and you still being yourself. As you said, you've grown, you learn, and now you are sharing. So this is amazing.
Muchas gracias, mi amigos.
Eso, gracias a ti. That's the fish and chips for the people who ask me what New Zealanders eat.